Sometimes I write stories about other people that I've encountered. Most of the times I won't use their real name, but in this case I am going to use the real name. This story is called Imperfect Gardener. I am an imperfect gardener. Friends tell me I scatter too many seeds, that I can't possibly tend them all. Being a poor planter, I often end up with extra seed. Sometimes I sow random spots, not only at home, but when I travel, perhaps spreading seed along some unfamiliar road. To the whimsical me likes to imagine that spot turning into a grand patch of flowers, but the rational me knows that only a plant or two may take root, if any at all. Years ago, I encountered quite literally the fruit of another imperfect stranger. Jim Hicks was his name. I suspect he had more success at gardening than I, though. It is an odd thing to think so frequently about a man that you have never met and will probably never meet. I first encountered the name Jim Hicks nearly 20 years ago, which is now over 40 years ago, while I was volunteering at a preschool carnival. The balloon animal maker did not show, and I was pressed into service, giving new meaning to the word desperation. After several tries, I mastered both the snake and the sword. The same balloon, actually, but with different spiels to introduce them. The kids were largely unimpressed. After my balloon duty was over, I wandered about the school carnival and I noticed several jars of jam and jelly at the silent auction. Each jar had a neatly printed label with the name Jim Hicks and a list of the ingredients. The ingredients were in the most interesting combinations, with several of them containing liqueurs. The blending of flavors was truly different than anything I'd seen before. I asked the director of the preschool if she knew who had donated the jam, and she directed me to a young woman. I went over, introduced myself, and asked her about the jam. "Who is Jim Hicks?" I said. "And what is a nice jar of jam like his doing in a place like this?" She smiled kindly at the poor joke and said that he was her father and had donated the jam and jelly because her children were going to this preschool. "Yeah, he makes tons of the stuff and donates it to all kinds of places. Food kitchens, food pantries for the poor, prisons, any kind of nonprofit agency that can use it." "And he just gives it away?" I asked. "Yeah, it's kind of his thing, how he helps, how he makes a difference," she said. I bid on all the jars, 5 or 6 varieties. In that perverse manner of auctions, if there is something you really want, someone will always bid up the price. The jars of jam and jelly ended up being very expensive, much to my wife's displeasure, but they were as wonderful in taste as the ingredients listed on the labels hinted they might be. This guy definitely knew how to jam, so to speak. Sometime later, I read a news article about Jim Hicks. It seemed he had run afoul of the health department where he'd lived. They insisted that since he distributed the jam, even freely, he was operating a commercial enterprise and would have to meet the requirements of a commercial kitchen. If I remember correctly, that led to zoning issues. Friends and neighbors came to his defense. A friend arranged for a professional stove and exhaust hood at cost, while a neighbor, a building contractor, offered to expand Jim's kitchen for just the cost of materials. Others offered donations of fruit, sugar, and jars. Eventually, Jim's supporters prevailed, and the kind outlaw was given clemency. He was allowed to continue making his jams and jellies in his newly redone kitchen. I have always been a romantic about gardens, I guess. I know that seed randomly spread seldom sprouts and develops into something alive and strong. And for the most part, those random plantings are out of our sight, out of our knowing. We must learn to live with the reality that we do not see every outcome, either good or bad, nor do we need to see, nor do we need to know. We all have some talent in this garden of life, something to give, even something as seemingly inconsequential as making wonderful jam. Thank you, Jim, wherever you may be, for planting a seed.